you very much, gentlemen. RNG coming out with a big win to start the series. But I want to go straight into champion select because we saw what we were asking for, Kobe, a little bit of champion diversity in the lane. As they mentioned, we saw some top lane Fizz getting picked, but also that red side. Game one, immediately showing us a new champion in that pool by Faker.
Yep, a little bit. And this is actually what we were expecting. I like this game a lot because it did re-emphasize a lot of the points that we were talking about before going into it. And very clearly, in the first pick and ban, we could see RNG focusing on that top lane, 2 top lane bans. They very obviously wanted to get Looper the counter pick, whereas SKT focused very heavily on that mid lane. And Faker, as you said, you know, we talked about he's been using the Fizz in solo queue, and they wanted to get this matchup. But the fact that RNG also had the game plan of playing around their winning lane so easily, getting the Nidalee up there, and all he had to do was spend 3 seconds to burn a flash. Huge lead for Looper, and they were able to ride that all the way to mid-game map control, which is what we were questioning if they'd be able to do.
I mean, a lot of people would look at this pick and ban phase and be like, why do you ban Maokai Echo and give them Poppy?
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
that doesn't make any sense. That's all the 3 best picks, and you're not first picking Poppy, but that's obviously to set up that counter pick in the top lane for Looper and say, you know what, we're just going to steamroll this one lane. The problem with RNG is, in case it was a lane swap, obviously a lot of the power would have been taken out of that composition because it built so heavily around Looper winning 1v1.
Yeah, lane swap would have definitely messed with the plans here. We did see also a shift now in playstyle from SKT, very much so more timid. Spawning on the castle said like 3 winning lanes. I would actually argue that some of these lanes from SKT could win a lot harder, but they elected not to. If you look at what Wolf and Bang were doing in the bot lane, Soraka Sivir can win that lane basically on push and out sustain, but from the get-go they had the option to push in, but because they respect MLXZ so much, because they're so afraid of teleports, their entire playstyle was centered on passivity in the bot lane and just being pushed in. So I hope that at least somebody comes out swinging a little bit in that bot lane.
I think it was very, very clear. We saw an SKT lineup who, a bit as we talked about, had looked back at the games they played and said, guys, we are too aggressive early on. We shouldn't play that aggressive, because as you said, they had multiple chances to actually play very, very aggro in the bot lane, but you have a Soraka. You don't want to risk playing, you know, just pushing the lane 24/7, get early ganked, then suddenly you fall behind again and again. So I think they came in, had changed the mindset, but that actually meant that the composition where they were supposed to then have at least a 2v2 on the bottom side that could push, ended up just losing as well.
Yeah, well, I do want to jump to the point that Kobe hit on for just a brief moment there. The fact that that early first blood went into the way of Trundle with MLXG visiting the top lane. We're going to pull that up on your screen because I don't want this to all go without saying that SKT wasn't aware of RNG's game plan and playing around it.
So yeah, in that replay that I was down on our screen, maybe we can give it back up later. What ends up happening, the first blood happens, and this is where Looper gets ahead. SKT's reaction is to try and shut down any other lane, hopefully, and then try and stop the bleeding from Looper, because we'll pan over to the bot lane right now, and we'll see what's happening with Wolf and Bang here. They'll sweep one of the brushes, and then they have 2 pink wards around, so the SKT did improve in that sense, that they played really well around stopping enemy teleports. Sweep 1 brush, pink ward here, pink ward even behind the lane, so they were doing that well. Sadly for them, Looper went on a rampage.
Yeah, I don't want to gloss over the first part of that replay because it was so important. Not only did Looper get that first blood, but he also drew out a teleport cooldown from Faker before that to try and protect Duke on Poppy right before he was able to go all in and dive the turret and still get it. And then he was able to build very offensively into the split push and create so much pressure. He also saved Xiaohu in the mid lane. So the amount that they gained from this top lane more than made up for SKT's strategy of trying to get that Fizz to the abyssal breakpoint, where then he can go offensive on the LeBlanc and try and win out from the middle of the map.
They tried to 2v0 him, didn't work. Then they took absolute ages killing him 3v1. Then he took 2 towers on the map. He just completely took control of the game.
But also trying to 2v0 him, honestly, when you have no ulti on a Fizz and you have a behind Poppy, that's the kind of calls you don't want to see in a semi-final.
2v1, not 2v0.
2v1, yeah, he wasn't even there. He just killed him.
The point is, that wasn't even the only 2 versus 1. They also, Blank spent valuable time as a jungler, Graves, going to a half-health Poppy lane versus a full-health Trundle. I'm ganking you. He smoke screened him. That's valuable time that you're wasting as a jungler. And another reason why my point earlier about the individual players from RNG still stands, and they shone through in this game.
And they absolutely shined. We also did see maybe a lapse in focus from SKT in the Baron call that RNG was able to pick up, because there was a bit of a dance going on, and then they all just kind of wandered mid lane and gave it away.
I almost never see a team take a Baron in the late game, or should we say early late game, without having a pink ward on the Baron. Because RNG still had exactly the same problems when it came to setting up their vision, but right here, they rushed the Baron because there's basically 2 things that can happen. Either SKT runs in to stop it and you get a team fight if you're RNG, or SKT is sleeping in the mid lane and you get a free Baron. So it's a win-win, and that's why they go for it, and SKT, they decided to nap a little bit in the mid lane.
Yeah, it's a win-win, but all of these winning teamfights usually when RNG plays LeBlanc comes at least from Zhao flanking. If this teamfight breaks out, he's in full vision, so it's a much different context.
But there was no Soraka.
The biggest problem here is that it's allowed to do. Like, I mean, they tried it earlier, and you saw how hard they got punished. RNG started the Baron with 2 or 3, they got punished, they lost complete control of the map. Complete reset, but they're so persistent. You're like, fool me once, fine, I'll just keep trying, and eventually SKT is gonna fall asleep, and it works somehow.
And RNG do deserve a tiny bit of credit. They did make baby steps, right? And maybe bump yours up from a 4 up to a 5 because they had pink ward behind it and they swept it at least.
Yeah, and this game
again, the baby step is enough to be able to get a play like that.
And this game, it was oddly reminiscent of the 2 group stage games that we had prior in terms of RNG establishing that early lead, this time being able to close it out and still master the majority of the team fights. We only saw about 1 go in the favor of SKT. But now I want to look forward to game 2, because as we mentioned at the very top of the day, Crepo, they do not switch sides. So now it's all about information that you've picked up. What are these teams going to come back with in game 2 to walk away with the W? I
mean, I hope SKT respect RNG enough to know that they could have stolen Trundle away, because they were hovering the Trundle support right there. So there must be another counter pick out there for Looper in case he also lost a Trundle. So I hope SKT doesn't tunnel there, but we need to get rid of Nidalee. That champion is just simply too strong, early game impact in MLG's
If they would have listened to our opening pre-game, maybe
it's one of those picks, right?
Nidalee,
Alistar, these picks that you can first pick if you're RNG. Overall, I understand what SKT were doing. Like, if we look at the mid game, you would have wave clear mid from the Sivir, and then you have the 1-3-1 with double teleport. And LeBlanc can never split push against that because she will not win the 1v1 and you get TP'd away from, and she does nothing. So I understand what they did, but because it was standard lanes, they lost top way too hard, and then it snowballs completely out of control.
And I actually agree with you, Crepo. I do hope that SKT realize that and they don't give the massive winning lane of the Trundle over again, because I want to see Looper on other champions. Looper can do more than just smash his head into the other top laner as Trundle. Let's be honest here, that's not too difficult to win that matchup. Looper's echo was, I had a whole rant prepared before about how well he can team fight and the other things that Looper can do, but I see you, Dash. I'm out of time.
I gotta get us out of here. I gotta get us out of here. I'm sure he would be happy to play Trundle the rest of the games, though, if it means they come away with the victories. Royal Never Give Up have jumped out of the gate with a Game 1 win, and the pressure's on for SKT to tie the series when they get back on the Rift. Our coverage of the 2016 MSI semifinals will continue right after this.
Furiously pointing at the table.
As we get ourselves through the rest of the picks and bans, the coaches shake hands and get off stage. It's now up to the 10 players on the Rift to get themselves into this match. Tanks a Shark and maybe bit off a bit more than he could chew. Just kidding! They're gonna take down Faker through the wish. Now on to Duke, and his duchy is going to belong to China. Working out for SKT. Faker's in, he picks up Mata. There's a teleport in for Duke. This could be that turnaround fight. Can he get anything else done? He is trying to win. They got Gilliam.